The radio crackled to life in Officer Marcus Rodriguez's patrol car as he drove through the quiet suburban neighborhood on that cold February morning. Unit 47, we have a welfare check requested at 1247 Maple Street. Neighbors report they haven't seen the children in over a week, and there's been some concerning activity. Marcus reached over and scratched behind the ears of his German Shepherd partner, Rex, who sat alert in the passenger seat. Rex had been his canine companion for 3 years now, and together they had handled everything from drug busts to search and rescue operations. But something about this call felt different. "What do you think, boy?" Marcus asked as he turned onto Maple Street. Rex's ears perked up and he let out a low whine, as if sensing the tension in his partner's voice. The house at 1247 Maple Street looked ordinary enough from the outside. It was a small single-story home with peeling paint and an overgrown lawn. The mailbox was overflowing with letters and packages, and newspapers were scattered across the front porch. Marcus noticed the curtains were drawn tight across every window. As he approached the front door with Rex by his side, Marcus could hear muffled sounds coming from inside. He knocked firmly and announced himself. "Police Department, welfare check." The sounds inside immediately stopped. After a long moment, footsteps approached the door and it opened just a crack. A thin man with bloodshot eyes and unkempt hair peered out nervously. "What do you want?" the man asked, trying to block the view into the house. "I'm Officer Rodriguez. We received a call about a welfare check. Are there children living here?" The man, who identified himself as David Thompson, became visibly agitated.
"The kids are fine."
"They're just sick, that's why they haven't been outside." But Rex was already reacting. The trained canine's nose was working overtime, and he began to show signs of distress that Marcus had learned to recognize. Rex started pawing at the ground and whining softly, behaviors that indicated he was detecting something alarming. "Sir, I'm going to need you to let me inside to check on the children's welfare," Marcus said firmly. Thompson tried to close the door, but Marcus had already positioned his foot to prevent it. "You can't come in without a warrant," Thompson said, his voice rising. That's when Marcus heard it, a faint crying sound from somewhere deep inside the house. It was weak and desperate, the kind of sound that made his blood run cold. Rex heard it too and began to bark, his protective instincts fully activated. "Sir, I have reasonable cause to believe children are in danger. I'm coming in," Marcus announced, pushing past Thompson. The smell hit him immediately. It was a mixture of neglect, filth, and something else he couldn't quite identify but made his stomach turn. Rex stayed close to his side, his nose working constantly as they moved through the cluttered living room. The house was in terrible condition. Garbage was piled everywhere. Dirty dishes covered every surface, and there were holes punched in several walls. But it was what they found in the back bedroom that would haunt Marcus for the rest of his career. Behind a locked door that Thompson frantically tried to prevent them from opening, Marcus discovered 2 small figures huddled together on a bare mattress on the floor. They were twin girls, and Marcus estimated they couldn't be more than 6 or 7 years old. The sight took his breath away. The children were so thin their ribs were clearly visible through their torn, dirty clothes. Their hair was matted and unwashed, and their eyes held a hollow look that no child should ever have. They cowered when they saw Marcus, clearly terrified of any adult approaching them. Rex immediately changed his demeanor. The trained police dog seemed to understand that these were victims, not threats. He lowered himself to the ground and crawled slowly toward the girls, his tail wagging gently. Despite their fear, something about Rex's calm presence seemed to reach them. "It's okay," Marcus said softly, kneeling down to their level. "I'm a police officer, and this is Rex. We're here to help you." One of the girls, slightly braver than her sister, reached out a trembling hand toward Rex. The German Shepherd remained perfectly still, allowing her to touch his soft fur. For the first time since Marcus had entered the house, he saw something other than fear in the child's eyes. Marcus quickly called for backup and emergency medical services while keeping his voice calm and reassuring. Thompson had been placed in handcuffs and was being held in the living room, alternately denying any wrongdoing and making excuses about financial hardship. While waiting for help to arrive, Marcus sat with the girls and Rex. The children were too weak to stand, and it was clear they hadn't had adequate food or water in days. Their clothes were soaked with urine, and they both showed signs of severe dehydration. "What are your names?" Marcus asked gently. The same girl who had touched Rex whispered, "Emma." She pointed to her sister. "That's Lily." Rex seemed to understand his role in this delicate situation. He positioned himself between the girls and remained calm and still, providing a source of comfort that words alone couldn't offer. His presence seemed to give the twins a small sense of security. In their frightening world, Marcus noticed that Emma kept looking toward a corner of the room where there was a small pile of what looked like scraps of food, moldy bread crusts and some kind of spoiled meat. It became clear that this had been their only source of nutrition for who knows how long. When the paramedics arrived, the twins initially refused to let anyone else approach them except Marcus and Rex. It was only when Rex moved closer to the medical team, showing through his body language that these people were safe, that Emma and Lily allowed themselves to be examined. The medical team's faces told the story. These children were in critical condition. They were severely malnourished, dehydrated, and showed signs of physical abuse. Both girls had bruises in various stages of healing, and their medical evaluation would later reveal the full extent of their suffering. As the twins were carefully loaded onto stretchers for transport to the hospital, Emma reached out toward Rex one more time. Marcus brought his partner closer so she could touch the dog's fur again. "Will we see Rex again?" she whispered. Marcus looked into those hopeful young eyes and made a promise he intended to keep. "Yes, sweetie. Rex and I will come visit you very soon." As the ambulance drove away with its precious cargo, Marcus stood in the yard with Rex by his side, both of them forever changed by what they had witnessed. This was just the beginning of a story that would touch the hearts of their entire community and show the incredible bond that can form between humans and animals in the most difficult circumstances. The case was far from over, but Marcus knew that he and Rex had just become part of something much bigger than a routine welfare check. They had become guardians and protectors for two little girls who desperately needed to know that not all adults would hurt them, and that sometimes help comes with 4 legs and a wagging tail. The pediatric ward at St. Mary's Hospital had seen many difficult cases, but when Emma and Lily Thompson arrived that February afternoon, even the most experienced nurses found themselves wiping away tears. Dr. Sarah Chen, the head of pediatrics, had been working with abused children for 15 years, but the condition of these twin girls shook her to her core. "They're severely malnourished," Dr. Chen explained to the social worker who had been assigned to the case. "Emma weighs only 32 pounds and Lily weighs 29. For their age, they should be closer to 50 pounds each. Their bodies have been surviving by essentially eating their own muscle tissue." The girls were placed in a private room with round-the-clock medical supervision. They were too weak to sit up on their own, and their bodies were covered in bruises, cuts, and sores that told a story of prolonged abuse and neglect. But perhaps most heartbreaking was their behavior. They flinched whenever an adult approached too quickly, and they wouldn't eat unless they were sitting together, sharing every bite. Officer Marcus Rodriguez kept his promise. 3 days after the rescue, he and Rex arrived at the hospital for their first visit. Marcus had called ahead to make sure it was appropriate, and Dr. Chen had actually encouraged the visit, knowing that the girls had asked about the nice policeman and his dog multiple times. When Marcus and Rex entered the hospital room, both girls' faces lit up with something that hadn't been there before: genuine joy. Emma, who seemed to be the slightly stronger of the two, actually tried to sit up when she saw Rex approaching. "Rex," she whispered, her voice still weak but filled with excitement. The German Shepherd had been specially bathed and groomed for this hospital visit. Marcus had even put a colorful bandana around Rex's neck that read, "Therapy Dog in Training." Rex approached the hospital bed slowly and gently, just as he had in that terrible house 3 days earlier. Dr. Chen watched in amazement as both girls immediately relaxed when Rex was near them. Their heart rates, which had been elevated since their arrival, actually normalized when the dog was in the room. It was something she had heard about but never witnessed so dramatically. "He remembers us," Lily said softly. Speaking for the first time since arriving at the hospital, she reached out with a thin, bruised hand to touch Rex's fur, and the dog remained perfectly still, allowing her to pet him. Marcus pulled up a chair beside their bed. "Of course he remembers you. Rex has a very good memory, especially for his friends." Over the next hour, Marcus told the girls stories about Rex's training and some of their adventures together, carefully choosing only the light-hearted, positive stories that would make them smile. He explained how Rex had learned to find lost people, how he could detect different smells, and how he had once helped find a little boy's lost cat. The nursing staff noticed something remarkable during that visit. For the first time since their arrival, Emma and Lily ate an entire meal without having to be coaxed. They even asked for seconds, something Dr. Chen had been hoping to see as a sign that their bodies were beginning to trust that food would be available. The dog is having a therapeutic effect on them that we haven't been able to achieve with traditional methods, Dr. Chen told Marcus as he prepared to leave. Would it be possible for you to visit regularly? Marcus looked down at Rex, who seemed to understand the importance of his role. We'll be here as often as you think it will help. As the days passed, Marcus and Rex became regular fixtures at the hospital. They visited every other day, and each visit seemed to bring small but significant improvements in the twins' condition. Emma began to smile more often, and Lily started talking to the nurses, though she still spoke in whispers. During their fourth visit, Emma asked Marcus a question that revealed just how much trauma these children had endured. "Is the bad man coming back?" she asked, her eyes wide with fear. Marcus knelt down beside her bed with Rex positioning himself protectively between the girls and the door, as if he understood the conversation. "No, Emma, the bad man is in jail and he can't hurt you anymore. Rex and I and all the doctors and nurses here, we're all here to keep you safe." "Promise?" Lily asked, joining the conversation. "I promise," Marcus said firmly. "And you know what? Rex promises too. Don't you, boy?" Rex seemed to sense his cue and placed his large head gently on the bed between the two girls, his tail wagging slowly. Both girls giggled, the first laughter anyone had heard from them since their rescue. The investigation into their case was revealing the full horror of what these children had endured. David Thompson, who was actually their uncle, not their father as he had initially claimed, had been supposed to be caring for them while their mother was in prison on drug charges. Instead, he had locked them in that back room for weeks at a time, providing minimal food and water, and using them as targets for his rage when he was drunk or high. Social services had been trying to locate any other family members who might be able to care for the twins, but so far no suitable relatives had been found. The foster care system was overwhelmed, and finding a family willing and able to take on two severely traumatized children was proving challenging. During one of their visits, Marcus noticed that Emma had been drawing pictures with some crayons the nurses had given her. Most of her drawings showed sad faces and dark, scary images, but there was one picture that stood out. It showed two small figures, a larger figure in a blue uniform, and a large dog with a happy face. Above the drawing, Emma had written in shaky letters, "My friends." "That's a beautiful picture, Emma," Marcus said, genuinely touched by the innocent artwork. "That's you and Rex," Emma explained. "You're our friends, right?" "Absolutely," Marcus replied, feeling a tug at his heartstrings. "Rex and I will always be your friends." Rex, as if he understood every word, gently licked Emma's hand, causing both girls to break into giggles again. Dr. Chen had been documenting the remarkable progress the girls were making during Rex's visits. Their appetite had improved significantly, they were sleeping better, and their overall anxiety levels had decreased noticeably. She had even contacted a specialist in animal-assisted therapy to better understand what she was witnessing. "These children have experienced severe trauma," she explained to Marcus during one of their visits. "They've learned not to trust adults, but somehow Rex represents safety to them. Dogs don't lie, they don't hurt children for no reason, and they offer unconditional acceptance. Rex is teaching them that they can trust again." As their physical health slowly improved, Emma and Lily began to show more of their personalities. Emma was the protective sister, always making sure Lily got enough to eat and was comfortable. Lily was more artistic, spending hours drawing pictures and making up stories about the characters in her drawings. Both girls were intelligent and curious, asking endless questions about Rex's training, Marcus's job, and the world outside the hospital. But the question that haunted everyone involved in their care remained unanswered. What would happen to Emma and Lily when they were healthy enough to leave the hospital? The foster care system was their most likely destination, but after everything they had been through, the thought of separating them from the stability and security they had found with Marcus and Rex was heartbreaking to everyone involved. Marcus found himself thinking about the girls even when he wasn't at the hospital. He had been a police officer for 12 years and had seen many difficult situations, but Emma and Lily had touched something deep in his heart. Rex seemed equally attached to the twins, often whining when they left the hospital and perking up noticeably when Marcus mentioned they were going to visit the girls. The bond that was forming between the officer, his canine partner, and two traumatized little girls was becoming something none of them had expected, and it was about to change all of their lives in ways they couldn't yet imagine. 3 weeks into their hospital stay, Emma and Lily had made remarkable physical progress. They were gaining weight, their wounds were healing, and they could now walk short distances without assistance. But emotionally, they remained fragile, clinging to their routine of visits from Marcus and Rex like a lifeline in a turbulent sea. Marcus had been doing some research of his own during his off-duty hours. He had spoken with other officers who worked with therapy dogs, contacted animal-assisted therapy organizations, and even reached out to families who had adopted children from difficult situations. The more he learned, the more an idea began to form in his mind. His wife, Elena, had noticed the change in her husband. Marcus came home from each hospital visit emotionally drained but also somehow energized. He talked constantly about Emma and Lily, sharing their small victories and expressing frustration about their uncertain future. "You're getting attached," Elena observed one evening as they sat at their kitchen table. They had been married for 8 years but had never been able to have children of their own despite years of trying. "I know," Marcus admitted, running his hands through his hair. "I try to maintain professional distance, but these kids, Elena, they've been through hell and somehow they still have hope. They still believe in goodness because of Rex, because they've learned that someone can be kind without wanting anything in return." Elena had accompanied Marcus on one of his visits to meet the girls. She had been prepared for many things, but she wasn't prepared for the immediate connection she felt when Emma shyly showed her a drawing she had made of flowers, or when Lily quietly asked if she could brush Rex's fur. "They need a family," Elena said softly. "Not just any family, but people who understand what they've been through." Marcus looked at his wife, seeing in her eyes the same thought that had been growing in his own heart. "Are you thinking what I'm thinking? That maybe this isn't a coincidence?" Elena replied. "That maybe Rex led you to those girls for a reason beyond just rescuing them?" The conversation that followed lasted deep into the night. They talked about their own struggles with infertility, their stable home, Marcus's experience with traumatized individuals through his police work, and their financial ability to provide for 2 children. They discussed the challenges of adopting children with severe trauma histories and the long road of therapy and healing that would be required. By morning, they had made a decision that would change all of their lives forever. Marcus called the social worker assigned to Emma and Lily's case, Jennifer Walsh, and requested a meeting. Jennifer had been working in child services for 10 years and had seen many police officers develop attachments to children they had rescued. But something about Marcus's call felt different. "I want to discuss the possibility of my wife and I becoming foster parents for Emma and Lily, with the intention of adoption if everything works out well for everyone involved," Marcus explained during their meeting. Jennifer studied Marcus carefully. "Officer Rodriguez, I have to ask, are you doing this out of guilt about their situation, or because you genuinely believe you and your wife can provide these children with the specialized care they need?" "Honestly, it started as feeling responsible for them," Marcus admitted, "but it's become much more than that. My wife and I have always wanted children. We've been through years of fertility treatments with no success. These girls need a family, and we need them just as much as they need us. Plus, Rex has already formed a therapeutic bond with them that would be beneficial to continue." Jennifer had to admit that the situation was unusual but potentially ideal. The girls had made more progress during their time with Marcus and Rex than most traumatized children made in months of traditional therapy. She agreed to begin the evaluation process for Marcus and Elena to become certified foster parents. Meanwhile, at the hospital, Emma and Lily remained unaware of the discussions happening about their future. They had settled into a routine that gave them comfort and security. Morning physical therapy with the nurses, afternoon visits with Marcus and Rex, evening art time with the child life specialist, and bedtime stories read by their favorite night nurse, Mrs. Patterson, during one of their regular visits. Emma asked Marcus a question that showed how much she had been thinking about life beyond the hospital. "Marcus, When we leave here, will we still be able to see Rex? The question hit Marcus like a punch to the gut. He had been so focused on the possibility of adoption that he hadn't considered how to explain the uncertainty to the girls. Well, that depends on where you go to live, Marcus said carefully. But I promise you that no matter what happens, Rex and I will always care about you and want to see you. Lily, who had been quietly petting Rex, looked up with tears in her eyes. But what if we go far away?
What if the new people don't like dogs?
Rex seemed to sense the emotional weight of the conversation and moved closer to both girls, resting his large head across both of their laps. The simple gesture provided comfort that words couldn't offer. That evening, Marcus called Dr. Chen to discuss Emma and Lily's emotional state and their readiness for discharge. The girls were physically healthy enough to leave the hospital, but emotionally, they were still very dependent on their established routine. They're going to struggle with any major change right now, Dr. Chen explained. The attachment they've formed to you and Rex has been their anchor during recovery. Disrupting that could cause significant setbacks. This conversation strengthened Marcus's resolve to pursue adoption. He and Elena attended their first foster care certification class the following week, beginning a process that typically took several months to complete. However, given the unique circumstances and Marcus's background in law enforcement, the caseworkers were willing to expedite certain aspects of their evaluation. The home study was scheduled for the following month. Elena threw herself into preparing their house, not just for the inspection, but for the possibility of welcoming two little girls who had experienced unimaginable trauma. She researched trauma-informed parenting, converted their spare room into a children's bedroom with twin beds, and even installed extra security features to help the girls feel safe. At the hospital, the staff had noticed that Emma and Lily were beginning to ask more questions about the future. They seemed to sense that their time in the protective environment of the hospital was coming to an end. "Are you going to forget about us when we're not here anymore?" Emma asked Marcus during one visit, her voice small and worried. Marcus knelt down beside her bed and took her small hand in his larger one. "Emma, I could never forget about you and Lily. You two and Rex are best friends now, and best friends don't forget each other. But what if we live somewhere far away?" Lily added, echoing her earlier concern. Marcus exchanged a look with Elena, who had joined them for this visit. They had discussed how much to tell the girls about their intentions, and had decided to wait until they were further along in the process to avoid raising hopes that might be crushed if something went wrong. "You know what?" Elena said, sitting on the edge of Lily's bed. "No matter where you live, Marcus and Rex will find a way to visit you. And if you can't visit them, maybe they can call you on the phone or you can send pictures to each other." Both girls seemed somewhat comforted by this promise, but Marcus could see the fear in their eyes. They had learned not to trust that good things would last, and the prospect of losing the stability they had found was terrifying to them. That night, Marcus made another promise to himself. He would do everything in his power to make sure these girls never had to say goodbye to the security and love they deserved. The foster care evaluation process couldn't move fast enough, and every day that passed was another day that Emma and Lily lived with uncertainty about their future. Rex, in his intuitive way, seemed to understand that something important was happening. He was more attentive during their visits, more gentle with the girls, and more responsive to their emotional needs. It was as if he knew that his role in their recovery was far from over, and that the bond they had formed was just the beginning of a much longer journey together. The home study evaluation arrived faster than Marcus and Elena had expected. Jennifer Walsh, accompanied by another social worker, spent an entire Saturday morning at their house, conducting interviews, inspecting their living situation, and discussing their motivations for wanting to adopt Emma and Lily. Elena had transformed the spare bedroom into a warm, welcoming space for two little girls. Twin beds with soft pink and purple comforters, a small bookshelf filled with children's books, toys carefully selected for their age group, and even a large cushion on the floor that she had bought specifically for Rex to lie on during bedtime stories. "This is beautiful," Jennifer commented as she examined the room. "But I have to ask, have you considered how challenging it might be to parent children with this level of trauma? They will likely have nightmares, anxiety attacks, difficulty trusting, and may act out in ways that test your patience every single day." Marcus and Elena exchanged a look. They had spent weeks researching trauma-informed parenting and had even attended a support group for adoptive families. We understand it won't be easy, Elena replied honestly. But we've seen how Emma and Lily respond to consistency and kindness. We're prepared for a long healing process, and we're committed to getting them whatever therapy and support they need. And Rex will be a huge part of their continued recovery, Marcus added. The therapeutic bond they've formed with him has been more effective than traditional therapy methods so far. Jennifer made notes throughout their conversation. She interviewed them separately about their marriage, their financial stability, their support system, and their understanding of the long-term commitment they were considering. She also asked detailed questions about how they would handle specific scenarios. What if one twin progressed faster than the other? What if the girls had attachment issues? What if they needed years of intensive therapy? By the end of the evaluation, Jennifer seemed cautiously optimistic. I'm going to recommend that you be approved for emergency placement, she told them. Given the unique circumstances and the therapeutic relationship already established, I think this could be beneficial for everyone involved. The emergency placement approval process typically took 2 weeks. But Emma and Lily's case had attracted attention from higher levels of the Child Services Department. Everyone involved wanted what was best for these 2 little girls who had captured hearts throughout the hospital and social services community. Meanwhile, at the hospital, Emma and Lily were preparing for discharge whether or not a permanent placement had been arranged. Dr. Chen had done everything medically possible for them, and continuing to keep them in the hospital was no longer appropriate. They needed to begin the process of learning to live in a normal home environment. We need to talk to them about what's going to happen next, Dr. Chen told Marcus during one of his visits. They've been asking the nurses about when they're leaving and where they're going. We can't keep avoiding the conversation. That afternoon, Marcus, Elena, and Jennifer met with Emma and Lily in their hospital room. Rex was there too, sensing that this was an important conversation and positioning himself protectively near both girls. Emma, Lily, Jennifer began gently. You know that you're healthy enough to leave the hospital now. We need to talk about where you're going to live. Both girls immediately tensed up. Emma reached for Lily's hand, and they both looked toward Rex as if he could somehow protect them from whatever scary news was coming. The good news, Marcus said, is that Elena and I would like you to come live with us and Rex, if you want to. The silence that followed seemed to stretch forever. Emma and Lily looked at each other, then at Marcus and Elena, then back at each other. It was as if they couldn't quite process what they had heard. Live with you? Emma finally whispered. And Rex? Forever? Lily added, her voice barely audible. Elena moved closer to their beds, her own emotions threatening to overwhelm her. If you want to, and if everything works out well for all of us, then yes, forever. Rex, sensing the emotional intensity of the moment, stood up and gently placed his head in Emma's lap, then moved to do the same with Lily. His calm presence seemed to anchor the girls as they processed this life-changing information. Would we have our own beds? Emma asked, still hardly believing what she was hearing. You would each have your own bed in your own room that you could decorate however you want, Elena explained. And Rex would have his own special place in your room too, if you'd like that. Tears began streaming down both girls' faces. But for the first time since Marcus had found them, they were tears of joy and relief rather than fear and pain. Can we see the house first? Lily asked practically, showing wisdom beyond her 7 years. Of course, Marcus replied. In fact, if Dr. Chen says it's okay, we could go see the house tomorrow, and you could decide if you think you'd like to live there. Dr. Chen, who had been watching this emotional scene unfold, wiped away her own tears. I think that's an excellent plan. A visit tomorrow, and if everyone feels good about it, discharge the day after. That evening, the nursing staff threw a small goodbye party for Emma and Lily. They had cake, balloons, and even small gifts that the nurses had bought with their own money. But the highlight of the evening was when Rex was allowed to stay for the entire party, wearing a special graduation bandana that read, Home at Last. Emma and Lily were so excited about visiting Marcus and Elena's house that they could barely sleep. They spent hours whispering to each other about what it might be like to have their own beds, to live with Rex, and to be part of a real family. The next morning, Marcus, Elena, and Rex arrived early to pick up the girls for their house visit. Emma and Lily had been dressed in new clothes donated by the hospital staff, and they each carried a small bag containing the drawings, stuffed animals, and other treasures they had collected during their hospital stay. The car ride to the house was filled with excited chatter as the girls asked hundreds of questions about their potential new home. Rex sat between them in the back seat, serving as a calming presence and a bridge between their uncertain past and hopeful future. When they pulled into the driveway of the modest two-story house, Emma and Lily pressed their faces to the windows, taking in every detail of what might become their forever home. "It has a backyard," Lily exclaimed, seeing the fenced area where Rex could play safely. "And flowers," Emma added, noticing Elena's carefully tended garden. As they walked toward the front door, Rex bounded ahead excitedly, as if he was showing off his house to his new friends. The sight of the big German shepherd acting like a proud homeowner made both girls giggle, a sound that filled Marcus and Elena's hearts with hope. The house tour was magical. Emma and Lily explored every room with wonder, but when Elena showed them the bedroom she had prepared, both girls fell silent with amazement. "This is really for us?" Emma asked, running her hand over the soft comforter on one of the beds. "Really and truly," Elena confirmed, sitting down on the edge of the bed. "And look, Rex has his own special bed right here so he can keep you company at night if you want." Rex immediately demonstrated by lying down on his designated cushion, tail wagging as both girls came over to pet him. The visit lasted 3 hours, during which Emma and Lily explored the house, the backyard, and even helped Elena make lunch in the kitchen. By the time they returned to the hospital, both girls were practically vibrating with excitement. "Can we really live there?" Lily asked Jennifer when they arrived back at the hospital. "Do you want to?" Jennifer asked in return. Both girls nodded so enthusiastically that everyone in the room started laughing. "Then I think we can make that happen," Jennifer confirmed, officially giving her approval for the placement. That night, Emma and Lily's last night in the hospital, they could barely contain their excitement about starting their new life. Tomorrow, they would go home with Marcus, Elena, and Rex, beginning a journey of healing and happiness that none of them could have imagined just a few weeks earlier. The morning of Emma and Lily's discharge from the hospital dawned bright and clear, as if the universe was celebrating this new beginning. The girls had been awake since 5 in the morning, too excited to sleep, whispering about their new life and making plans for all the things they wanted to do with Rex in their new home. Dr. Chen arrived early to complete their final medical evaluation and discharge paperwork. Both girls had gained enough weight to be considered healthy. Their wounds had healed completely and their blood work showed marked improvement. But more importantly, their emotional progress had been remarkable. "Remember," Dr. Chen told Marcus and Elena as they completed the paperwork, "they're going to need time to adjust. Don't be surprised if they have some difficult days ahead. Change, even good change, can be stressful for children who have experienced trauma." Marcus and Elena nodded solemnly. They had prepared for this reality through weeks of research and conversations with child psychologists. They understood that bringing Emma and Lily home was just the beginning of a long journey toward complete healing. When it was time to leave the hospital, the entire pediatric nursing staff gathered to say goodbye. Many of them were in tears as they hugged Emma and Lily, having watched these two brave little girls transform from broken, terrified children into hopeful, trusting ones. "You remember that you can call us anytime," Nurse Patterson said, kneeling down to hug both girls, "and we want to see lots of pictures of you and Rex having adventures together." The car ride home was filled with nervous excitement. Emma and Lily sat on either side of Rex in the back seat, their small hands buried in his thick fur as they watched the familiar hospital neighborhood give way to residential streets lined with normal houses where normal families lived normal lives. "Are we really going to live in a house?" Lily asked for the 10th time, still hardly able to believe it was true. "Really and truly," Elena confirmed from the front seat, her own emotions threatening to overwhelm her as she watched these two precious children in the rearview mirror. When they arrived at the house, Rex bounded out of the car first, running around the front yard. The morning of Emma and Lily's discharge from the hospital dawned bright and clear, as if the universe was celebrating this new beginning. The girls had been awake since 5 in the morning, too excited to sleep, whispering about their new life and making plans for all the things they wanted to do with Rex in their new home. Dr. Chen arrived early to complete their final medical evaluation and discharge paperwork. Both girls had gained enough weight to be considered healthy. Their wounds had healed completely and their blood work showed marked improvement. But more importantly, their emotional progress had been remarkable. Remember, Dr. Chen told Marcus and Elena as they completed the paperwork, they're going to need time to adjust. Don't be surprised if they have some difficult days ahead. Change, even good change, can be stressful for children who have experienced trauma. Marcus and Elena nodded solemnly. They had prepared for this reality through weeks of research and conversations with child psychologists. They understood that bringing Emma and Lily home was just the beginning of a long journey toward complete healing. When it was time to leave the hospital, the entire pediatric nursing staff gathered to say goodbye. Many of them were in tears as they hugged Emma and Lily, having watched these two brave little girls transform from broken, terrified children into hopeful, trusting ones. You remember that you can call us anytime, Nurse Patterson said, kneeling down to hug both girls. And we want to see lots of pictures of you and Rex having adventures together. The car ride home was filled with nervous excitement. Emma and Lily sat on either side of Rex in the back seat, their small hands buried in his thick fur as they watched the familiar hospital neighborhood give way to residential streets lined with normal houses where normal families lived normal lives. Are we really going to live in a house? Lily asked for the 10th time, still hardly able to believe it was true. Really and truly, Elena confirmed from the front seat, her own emotions threatening to overwhelm her as she watched these two precious children in the rearview mirror. When they arrived at the house, Rex bounded out of the car first, running around the front yard as if he was announcing to the whole neighborhood that his family had grown by 2 members. Emma and Lily climbed out of the car slowly, taking in the sight of what was now their home. Elena had tied yellow ribbons around the front porch posts and hung a banner that read, "Welcome home, Emma and Lily." The girls stood in stunned silence, reading the banner over and over again. "That's our names," Emma whispered to Lily, as if she couldn't quite believe it. "On our house?" Lily whispered back, equally amazed. The first few hours in their new home were a mixture of wonder and overwhelming emotion. Emma and Lily explored every corner of the house again, this time knowing it was truly theirs. They spent a long time in their bedroom, touching their new belongings and organizing their few possessions from the hospital and the dresser Elena had bought for them. Rex seemed to understand his important role as comfort provider and entertainment committee. He followed the girls everywhere, allowing them to brush his fur, throw tennis balls for him in the backyard, and even letting them dress him up in some of Elena's old scarves, which he tolerated with remarkable patience. But by afternoon, the reality of the huge change began to set in. Emma became quiet and withdrawn, sitting by the window and staring out at the street with a worried expression. Lily started asking repeatedly if they were really allowed to stay, if Marcus and Elena might change their minds, and if they had permission to use the bathroom whenever they needed to. "It's okay to feel scared," Elena said gently, sitting down beside Emma at the window. "This is a big change, and you've had a lot of changes in your life. It's normal to feel worried. What if we're not good enough?" Emma asked, voicing the fear that had been building in her mind all day. "What if we do something wrong and you don't want us anymore?" Marcus, who had been playing with Rex and Lily in the living room, came over and knelt down in front of Emma's chair. "Emma, look at me. Elena and I didn't bring you home to test you or to see if you were good enough. We brought you home because we love you and Lily, and because we want to be your family forever. That means even when you make mistakes, even when you have bad days, even when you're scared or angry or sad, families stick together through everything." Rex, sensing the emotional moment, came over and rested his head on Emma's lap, providing his usual calming presence. Emma stroked his fur and seemed to relax slightly. That first night was challenging. Both girls had nightmares, waking up disoriented and scared in their new room. But each time Rex was there immediately, followed quickly by Marcus and Elena. They had prepared for this possibility and had agreed that for the first few weeks, one of them would sleep on the couch in the living room to be close by if the girls needed them. "Bad dream," Lily sobbed as Elena held her, with Rex pressed against her legs and Emma holding her hand from the next bed. "You're safe now," Elena whispered, rocking her gently. "Marcus and Rex and I are here, and nothing bad is going to happen to you." It took several hours for both girls to fall back asleep, but eventually they did, with Rex positioned protectively between their beds and Marcus dozing in the rocking chair, Elena had moved into their room for exactly this purpose. The next few days established a routine that helped Emma and Lily feel more secure. Morning breakfast with pancakes or cereal, time playing with Rex in the backyard, quiet activities like coloring or puzzles in the afternoon, and family dinner followed by story time before bed. Marcus had taken a week off work to help with the transition, and Elena had arranged to work from home for the first month. They wanted to be available for every moment of the girls' adjustment period. On their fourth day home, something wonderful happened. Emma and Lily were in the backyard with Rex throwing a frisbee for him to catch, when Lily suddenly started laughing, not just giggling but deep, joyful belly laughs as Rex performed an elaborate somersault trying to catch the frisbee mid-air. Emma joined in the laughter, and soon both girls were rolling on the grass with Rex, all three of them tangled up in a pile of happiness. Marcus and Elena watched from the kitchen window, tears of joy streaming down their faces as they witnessed this moment of pure childhood joy. "They're going to be okay," Elena whispered, leaning against Marcus's shoulder. "We're all going to be okay," Marcus replied, putting his arm around his wife as they watched their new family bonding in the sunshine. The following week brought new challenges and new victories. Emma had a panic attack in the grocery store when she became separated from Elena for just a few minutes, but she was comforted quickly and learned that her new parents would always come looking for her. Lily wet the bed several nights in a row, a common response to trauma and stress, but learned that accidents weren't met with anger or punishment, just clean sheets and understanding hugs. Rex continued to be their constant companion and comfort. He seemed to have appointed himself as their personal guardian, rarely leaving their side and always positioning himself between them and anything that might seem threatening, including the mailman, delivery trucks, and unfamiliar visitors. 2 weeks after coming home, Emma and Lily had their first appointment with Dr. Maria Santos, a child psychologist who specialized in trauma recovery. Marcus and Elena had been carefully preparing the girls for this meeting, explaining that Dr. Santos was someone who helped children talk about their feelings and learn ways to feel safer and happier. "Will Rex come with us?" was Lily's first question about the appointment. "If Dr. Santos says it's okay, and if having Rex there would make you feel better, then absolutely," Elena assured her. Dr. Santos not only welcomed Rex to their sessions but was impressed by the therapeutic bond she observed between the girls and the German Shepherd. She incorporated Rex into their therapy sessions, using his presence to help Emma and Lily feel safe enough to begin talking about their experiences and processing their trauma. "This dog is doing work that would normally take months of traditional therapy to achieve," Dr. Santos told Marcus and Elena after their first session. "The trust and security he represents to them is providing a foundation for all their other healing." By the end of their first month as a family, Emma and Lily had settled into their new life in ways that amazed everyone involved in their care. They were sleeping through the night more often, eating regular meals without anxiety, and beginning to show their individual personalities and interests. Emma discovered a love for reading and would spend hours with Rex beside her, reading stories out loud to him. Lily showed artistic talent and filled notebook after notebook with drawings of their new family adventures. Both girls were growing stronger physically and emotionally every day, but perhaps the most significant change was in their capacity for trust and love. They had learned to accept hugs without flinching, to ask for help when they needed it, and to believe that they deserved kindness and care. The foundation was being laid for a lifetime of healing and happiness, built on the unshakable bond between two little girls, their new parents, and one very special German Shepherd who had shown them that the world could be a safe and loving place.